Welcome to Success Weekly with James Tharris, a weekly dose of thought-provoking ideas and helpful tips on improving your mindset. And now, here's your host, James Tharris.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Success Weekly. I'm your host, James Tharris, and we're going to jump right into things this week and talk about getting a mentor. Do you have a mentor in your life? If not, you should get one like yesterday. Listen, I talk to a lot of people in my industry, which is the martial arts industry, and I hear martial arts instructors and school owners all over the country, and sometimes internationally, complain about they wish they could leave their jobs and they can't charge this particular amount of money in their area because nobody will pay it, and 5 or 6 other excuses as to why they aren't making a living at doing what they love to do, which is martial arts, and then they have to work another job to support that so that they can do martial arts more as a hobby or a second job, and it's really not necessary. And I try to get this across to them that if this is what you want to do, you've got to stop making excuses. So I will go on to a forum or something or a private group in Facebook, and I will have a conversation with one of these school owners. And it will always come down to, that won't work in my area. That the people in my area won't go for that, whatever it is. It could be several things. And I always come down to the same question with these guys after I talk to them for, we have an interchange of about 5 or 6, questions and comments. And then I'll say, let me ask you something. Do you have a mentor? And they will say one of the two things. No, I don't have a mentor. I'm not working with anybody. Or I've done that. I've tried that. It didn't work. It was a waste of my time, a waste of my money. I don't have time to do the things they were asking me to do. And I'm thinking to myself, well, there's your problem. That's the reason why you aren't able to leave your job and do your martial arts business as a full-time endeavor. And it's not just martial arts, because I can tell you it's the same in virtually any industry. Whatever it is you're trying to do, I don't care what it is. If you're trying to sell basket weaving and you're trying to sell your baskets and do that as a full-time business, or you're carving wood and making statues and things and you want to turn that into a business, well, the first thing you've got to do in order to even think about turning that into a business is to find out if anybody else has done that. If there's somebody else that's done what you're trying to do, then you want to try to get in their back pocket somehow and get that person to mentor you. Now, sometimes you'll be able to do this free of charge. People other successful people love to help other people become successful. Let's just keep it like that. So sometimes you can get it for free. Other times you might have to pay for a mentor. Maybe there's nobody in your family or friends circle that can help you with this, or they don't live close to you. Or they're just not accessible without knowing somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. There are a lot of groups and people out there that will happily provide mentorship to you for a fee, and for some people that becomes their business, is coaching and consulting others. I'll tell you what, I've done a combination of free mentors and paid mentors, and they're both fantastic, but I'll tell you what I get more value out of are the paid ones. And the reason that I get more value out of the paid ones is because I'm paying for it. And I heard it recently from one of my mentors from the stage, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but I believe he said it is, people who don't pay attention. Let me say that again. People who don't pay attention. And that's so true. So I know that the free mentoring that I've gotten in the past, that I've received in the past, I've taken it with kind of a grain of salt. I didn't really put a lot of value on it. Whereas somebody else who's doing what it is I want to do in life and doing it to a degree that I'd like to be able to do it, I have to pay that person to get me to get them to tell me what I need to do. When they tell me to do it, because I've put money behind that, I do it. And lo and behold, I get the results. And I think there's a big thing to be said about free versus paid in virtually anything. I mean, you can go to a store like Dollar General or Family Dollar and get a great bargain on something. But what's the quality of that typically in comparison to something that you might get at a higher end store? Now, maybe you're listening to this and you've gotten some fantastic deals and they've been great products. I've shopped at Family Dollar and Dollar General, not putting those stores down whatsoever. But there's a perceived value that you get from these things. There was something, we purchased 2 or 3 items from Walmart recently. One of them was a bicycle, and the other one was a tent that we were supposed to be able to put it up at the beach and stay out of the sun. And we had to return both of those items. The bicycle cost $80. Within 1 week, riding it 3 times, the pedal fell off and it had worn a hole through the, or not worn a hole, it had, I can't think of what it's called. The part that screws in got stripped, so we couldn't put the pedal back on. So instead of spending the $80 for the bicycle, we spent $200 for a bicycle and have been absolutely have no problems with it. And the bicycle that we paid $200 for was used versus a brand new one for $80 at Walmart. Now that's a kind of a small indication of what I'm talking about here is the cost versus value. You can get things for less, but a lot of times, and most times from my experience, you get what you pay for, and so it's worth less. And so it's the same thing with anything else. You get what you pay for, and so the things that are free or they're cheaper, they're going to attract a certain type of person that's looking for free and looking for cheaper, and they're typically, if it's information, they're really not going to do anything with it. So if you've got yourself a mentor and it's somebody that you've had to work to get their attention or you've had to pay to get their attention, it's going to be a lot more beneficial to you. So that's my first recommendation to you is if you don't have a mentor, get yourself a mentor, as I said yesterday. And for me, I've had mentors my entire life, and I started with free mentors. And they brought me to a certain level, and then I had to start paying for other mentors. And for me, learning to martial arts was one of my very first mentors was my martial arts master, and I had to pay him each and every month for tuition. But it became much more than just tuition for learning how to kick and punch. He taught me many skills outside of just kicking and punching, outside of just martial arts skills that I've benefited from to this day. Now, he could only take me to a certain level because of where he was at. So I had to look for somebody a little higher up, and for that person, I had to pay for it. And I'll tell you, it was some of the best money I ever spent. And I remember when it happened, it was probably May or June of 2003 that I did my first, what I would call really paid mentorship. And I guess I could back it up. In fact, let's take it back to 1999 when I joined an organization called the National Association of Professional Martial Artists. It was $99 per month. And back at that time, $99 per month for me was a stretch for me to get me to spend that kind of money on education is outside of doing physical martial arts, obviously. That was a huge risk for me, I felt. And I was not sure what was going to happen, and so I decided I was going to try it for a month. And after the first month, I was totally hooked. It totally changed my mindset, and I remember speaking to one of my mentors, Tom Kalos. I probably called this guy once every day, Monday through Friday, and bothered him for 20 or 30 minutes at a time, and he probably got sick and tired of picking the phone up and hearing from me. But I continued to hound him and ask him questions and pick his brain about what I should be doing in certain areas of my business, and as far as creating schedules or charging for tuition or whether I should use a billing company or not, and a whole slew of other things, how to deal with an irate parent or whatever it was. And he saved me a lot of time. That was a $99 a month expense for me, and it was one of the best expenses that I had spent up to that point. And even now, I think it's still one of the best $100 per month that I've spent in mentorship ever. Now, in 2003, fast forwarding, I did a few other things between 99 and 2003, but in 2003, I had an opportunity to work with a really big, well-known mentor in the martial arts. I had gone to a couple of his free seminars at one of our industry associations and heard from him, and I thought, wow, this guy is on a different level. There's something totally unique about him. I'd never heard him say the things that he said and say them in the way that they were said, and I thought, man, I want to learn more from this guy. And so I bought one of his programs that he was selling at this free seminar that he was doing. And again, I poured through it 3 or 4 or 5 times and just thought, wow, this guy is incredible. So The next step, he had a coaching program that cost $1,000 per month. Now, at that time, I was able to afford $100 to $200 per month pretty comfortably because of the $100 that I spent at the National Association of Professional Martial Artists and working with Tom Callis and the guys that I was working with there. So this was a huge stretch for me, and I mean huge. I was petrified. But I'm a bit of a gambler. I'm a bit of a risk taker, as I talked about last week with taking calculated risks. And this is one of the calculated risks that I really, I'm so glad that I took, because I didn't know what I could accomplish at that time. I had no idea. And I talked to this guy over the phone. We had probably a 20-minute conversation. And I remember asking him, I said, he gave me a figure that he thought I could make per month. And I thought, oh my goodness, are you serious? That's like 3 times what I'm able to do right now. Do you really think that you could help me do that? And his comment was this: I know I can help you do that. I don't think I can help you do that. I know that I can help you do that. And I said, absolutely. Let's go for it. Let's do it. And guess what? He was true to his word. He helped me to 3 times my income. Now, that cost me $1,000, but I won't give you the figure, but let's just say that the return on investment I got was $3,000. And that was a lot more than that. But I spent $1,000 per month to get $3,000 in return. Now, in gambling terms, that's like you go up to the blackjack table, you drop down $100, and every time you put $100 down, you get a 20, and the dealer pulls a 19, and you get double your money back. Or in this case, I guess it would be the 3 times. So it would be like you get a blackjack, and that means you win no matter what the dealer pulls. So you put down $100, you get $300 back. Or you put down $1,000, you get $3,000 back. How often would you want to do that? It's a rhetorical question, obviously. But that's exactly how you have to think about paying for mentorship, because that's the kind of dividends that it can return to you. Now, you have to be cautious about it. You have to find the right person, and you have to be willing to lose some money in some cases. And you've got to be willing to go through a learning curve. Even when a mentor starts mentoring you, the very first thing they're going to start doing is working on your mindset. They're going to start changing the paradigms that you have about everything. And if you're resistant to that, then that's where you're going to be spending money and not seeing any results right away. So the mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. If you can learn to open your mind to this mentor and understand if you've got the right mentor, they are at where you would like to be. Stop fighting their advice and take it, because they're saving you time. They're saving you money. They're saving you headaches. They will teach you to learn to think big. Remember, they are where you want to be, so you have to listen to what they're saying. They've probably had every problem that you're going to have and the problems that you're going through, and they've learned to solve them. So they can save you a lot of time. All successful people have mentors, from actors to athletes and business people, chefs, singers, and the list goes on. In fact, I remember hearing that Tiger Woods had, I think, 3 or 4 coaches at one time, or mentors at one time. One for his swing, one for his putt, one for his mindset, and one for something else. Mike Tyson was famously had one of his, I wouldn't call him a mentor, but he had mentors in Cus D'Amato, and of course Don King was not probably a great mentor to him, but nonetheless he was a mentor. Cus D'Amato was his real mentor and really took him to the levels where he got to. And it was Don King that kind of took him down at the end. But one of the things that Mike Tyson paid for, now listen to this, he paid for this. He paid for a guy a full-time salary, and I believe it was in the 6 figures, to just follow him around and talk to him in his ear and say, you're the greatest, you're the best, nobody can beat you. You're unbelievable. You're undefeatable. You're the absolute toughest, meanest guy on this planet. He paid a guy to walk around and do that for him. But look at what that did for him, as far as his meteoric rise in the boxing world. So that's the power of having mentors, and that's just a very small example of something that somebody paid for that they felt really gave them value. Sometimes, here's the thing. Sometimes your mentors they'll tell you what you need to hear versus what you want to hear. And I remember this in many, many occasions where I was seeking advice, and sometimes I knew that my mentor was telling me more what I wanted to hear versus what I needed to hear. And it wasn't until I had some failure that mentor came back and said, yeah, James, that's what I really wanted to tell you, but I could tell that you really wanted to do this, and so I didn't want to, dash your dreams. And so that was unfortunate. I would have probably been more beneficial hearing that what I needed to hear, and then I wouldn't have made these mistakes. Now, knowing me, I probably would have still made the mistakes because I'm hard-headed, but I would have learned a lot faster, and I would have seen where they were coming from a lot faster. Another thing that mentors will do for you is they will identify your blind spots, because there's the problems that you think that you know what they are, but sometimes the problems aren't what you think they are. And your mentor will identify, your problem is not your pivot on your sidekick in martial arts. The problem's not your pivot on your sidekick. It's how you're holding your arms. Or it's the how high you're lifting your knee before you throw the kick, or where you're positioning your knee before you're kicking. And you thought the whole time that it was because your pivot was off, or something along those lines. And that goes for anything in business, and in relationships, in a sport, in a physical activity. It doesn't matter. You've got to have these mentors, because they're going to help you identify these problems. They will also motivate you. When a mentor sees you falling down a little bit, they're going to remember the times that it happened to them, and they're going to remember the things that they needed to hear, and they're going to remember the things that were done for them that helped to bring them out of that funk. And they'll do those things for you. And finally, they'll act as a sounding board for your ideas and thoughts, and so they can save you a lot of time in that respect as well, because you might have an idea that you think is fantastic, and you take that idea to your mentor and says, I actually tried that 5 years ago, and I had 3 of my other friends try that as well, and it totally tanked. Stay away from it. Don't do it. One of those things for business owners in our industry is the company Yelp. We get a lot of calls from this company, and they do have a decent online, what do they call it, rating service and things, and people do use them, but there's a lot of supposed underhanded things that go on within that company, that if you don't pay, that if you're getting free listings, they'll like leave up your negative reviews and pull down your positive ones. And I don't know that that's true, but a lot of my mentors have said, stay away from it, don't do it. So that's an example of something that I looked into that was about $500 per month, I think, to work with these guys. And they say that it's a total waste of money and don't do it. It's not good for you. So that was an example of me saying, okay, I'm going to listen to them. And I talked to the rep and said, my mentor said it wasn't a good idea, so I'm not going to do it. And I haven't regretted it. I'm sure they're a great company, but for some reason in our industry, they're just not, they don't get the results. So that's it for this week, guys. If you don't have a mentor, get yourself a mentor. If you don't know where to look, let me know. Let me know you need a mentor and what kind of a mentor you're looking for to help you in what area, and I'll try to steer you in the right direction. I know a lot of people in the martial arts world, but outside the martial arts world as well, in the business world as well, and everybody knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. So if you're having trouble getting a mentor, let me know in the comments, and I'll do my best to help get you linked up with the right mentor. But be prepared to spend some money if you're looking for a really strong mentor that's going to get you the best results. Until next week, this is James Theris saying, be successful.
That's all for this week. Tune in next week for another episode of Success Weekly. Do you have an idea you'd like James to talk about in an upcoming episode? Post your comments and be sure to share this podcast with friends.